Oh boy, am I in the mood. Oh boy, am I in the mood. For obvious reasons. I'm going to do my best here. I don't really have a show prepared. I did have a show prepared, but obviously, I'm not going to do that show for obvious reasons. First of all, let's pray for our soldiers. Let's pray for the families, and let's pray that we have no more loss of life while they try and complete their mission, the mission that they've been given. Second of all, boy, am I angry. And it's okay to be angry. Let me just say that right up front. Let me just say also, I'm not here to hammer Joe Biden. I'll tell you right now, this is not going to be a show to hammer Joe Biden or anyone else. I'm going to give you some viewpoints that may sound like I'm hammering Joe Biden, but I'm not hammering Joe Biden. I'm giving you my views on things. I'm giving you my opinions on things. I welcome your opinion, your views. That's what this show is all about. It's a discussion show, not a debate show. So I'm not trying to prove any points to anyone. I'm not trying to win any arguments or change anyone's minds. I'm giving you my view. And my view is I'm angry. And it's normal to be angry. It's okay to be angry and frustrated. It's okay, right after you hear something like 13 American soldiers have been killed, to say we should wipe Afghanistan off the face of the map. It's normal to have that reaction. What's not normal is to immediately start throwing around criticism or blame. But what's also not normal is to say, well, we don't want to be like the terrorist. We don't want to be like the terrorist. Let me tell you the number one thing that makes me angry when I hear something like that. We will never be like the terrorist. I have a question for people on the left who, when they hear someone angered and frustrated, say we should bomb them back to the Stone Ages, or we should wipe one city for every American soldier killed off the map in Afghanistan. As I said, a normal, frustrated, angry reaction. Maybe not a smart reaction, it's an emotional reaction. But to say, well, that'll just make us just like the terrorists. No, we don't put people in cages and set them on fire. We don't chop people's heads off. We don't subjugate and enslave women and children. We don't marry off 12 and 13-year-old girls. We don't strap bombs to people and go and indiscriminately blow up innocent civilians. So don't accuse me of being like the terrorist when I get upset and say we should drop bombs in a war, because that's what you do in a war. You drop bombs on people. And unfortunately, when you do that, some people do die that you don't want to die. It's been the nature of war since the beginning of time. But now we're America. We have to be a role model for the rest of the world. We have to be above doing those sorts of things. There was a time when we can assassinate the leaders of other countries. There was a time when we could torture prisoners, torture in quotes, to get information from them, to save the lives of other American troops possibly. But we can't do those things anymore because we have to be role models. Well, let me ask you another question, people on the left or anyone who thinks that we're going to be like the terrorist if we do these sorts of things. What do you do when the rest of the world isn't following your lead? What do you do when the rest of the world doesn't see your standards for conducting a war as an example to follow, but they see it as weakness and they take advantage of it? They use people as human shields. They hide in holy sites knowing you won't bomb it because it doesn't look good. The optics of it are not good. What do? How do you fight that war? I hear people on these left-leaning talk shows making all these statements. And in fairness, the show I listened to was before the bombing, prior to the bombing. Maybe they'll change their tune. I don't know. I doubt it. But I hear people making statements about we can't be in Afghanistan forever. We can't solve all of our problems through violence. This was the hubris and the problem with the American military, the hubris that they think they can solve all their problems through violence. Yes, we can. Oh, we can. We can solve all of our problems through violence. You just have to be willing to be more violent than the other side. You cringe when I say that. I'm not recommending it. I'm saying that's the answer. I heard a host ask the question, explain to me how we win in Afghanistan. No one's been able to explain, how do we win in Afghanistan? You win in Afghanistan by being more violent than the other side. You win in Afghanistan by letting the American military do what the American military is capable of doing. Every great empire throughout history have solved all of their problems through violence. Now listen to me. I'm not arguing the ethics of it. I'm telling you, stop saying you can't solve all your problems through violence. The great empires who spread across the world practically, they did it through violence. And they didn't go away. They weren't destroyed for the most part. Most of them, the great many of them, weren't destroyed by an enemy, by losing wars. They were destroyed within. They destroyed themselves, which anyone who's ever known or studied a little bit of history understands. The Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, all of them destroyed from within because they got weak. They got weak. We can't stay in Afghanistan indefinitely. Why not? Why not? We just hear that. We hear that from people on the left and we accept it. We go, yeah, that's true. I guess we can't stay in Afghanistan indefinitely. Why not? We act as if we've never fought wars and then stayed in those countries indefinitely. Why do we have a military base on the Korean Peninsula? Why do we have a naval base in Japan? Why do we have a base in Germany? Ramstein base, probably one of our most important, greatest military bases with some of the greatest soldiers. Why is that base there? We can't fight forever wars. I hear Joe Biden say we can't fight forever wars because we've been fighting this war for 20 years. And we're fighting people who've been fighting wars for thousands of years. Like I said, am I advocating these things? No, it just angers me to hear people say these things off the cuff as if this is the reason we're in the mess that we're in right now. We can't fight forever wars. We can't stay there indefinitely. How do we win a war in Afghanistan? All of these things just off the cuff as if, that's just the way it is. But it's not the way it is. You know the reason why that appears the way it is? You know the reason why our leaders are saying we can't stay in Afghanistan? Because there's nothing for us to stay in Afghanistan for. That's why we can't stay in Afghanistan. If there was something in Afghanistan that we wanted, trust me, we would stay in Afghanistan. Because that's the way wars used to be. After you won them, you got the spoils of war. Whatever there was, you divvy it up. If you had allies that fought along with you, you would divvy up the spoils of war amongst the winners. But there's nothing to divvy up if you win in Afghanistan. That's why we haven't won in Afghanistan. If there was something in Afghanistan like oil or precious minerals, as I hear people talking about, and we could take it, we could take the precious minerals that are in Afghanistan after we beat the Taliban, trust me, we'd have beaten the Taliban 18 years ago. And then we'd take their precious minerals. Because that's what you're supposed to do after a war. But we don't fight wars like that anymore. We fight wars to spread our Western values all of a sudden, to make people's lives better. Now I'm going to play for you the timeline from Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has not been honest with us. He said this was never about nation building in a speech he gave just a few days ago. It was never about nation building. But you're going to hear Joe Biden talk a different tune back when he was Senator Biden, back when he was Vice President Biden. Let me play the clip for you.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
If it requires the use of ground forces, I have no doubt you'll get support to do it. I'm not confirming this. Let's assume it turns out to be bin Laden and his organization. any cell, any group, anything it takes, including using ground forces. They have crossed a line that occurs occasionally in history with such a heinous act that they've even have moved those who have been viewed as our enemies. This isn't going to be 800 or 500 or 200,000 troops storming someplace. We have to be patient, we have to be resolved, and we have to understand that this is going to be something that can be done if in fact we do it in conjunction with the rest of the world. The President has personally stated it to Senator Helms and to me, and I'm sure to others, that we have to be in this for the long haul. We can't, quote, drain the swamp and let it fill up again. The first real test of post 9/11 engagement is whether or not we're going to stay the course in Afghanistan. If Chairman Karzai is to govern effectively, the first thing he needs is security. The second is a plan which is underway to rebuild a military and a police force and an infusion of economic assistance just to do the basic things, like put in fax machines, telephones, desk, paper, the things that are the necessary tools of governance in the most basic of ways.
2002.
History is going to judge us very harshly, I believe, if we allow the hope of a liberated Afghanistan to evaporate because we are fearful of the phrase nation building or we do not stay the course. And Mr. Chairman, let's remember why you, Senator Hagel, and I, along with our colleagues on this committee, decided to pass the Afghan Freedom Support Act in the first place. I can sum it up in 3 words: warlords, drugs, and terrorism. We did it for the sake of the people of Afghanistan. We also did it for the sake of our own national security. We spent more money in 3 weeks on combat in Iraq than we spent on the entirety of the last 7 years that we have been in Afghanistan building that country.
Biden made a surprise visit to a dangerous Taliban stronghold in Afghanistan, where he promised U.S. support for its struggle against terrorism, drugs, and corruption.
After my trip, President Obama ordered a comprehensive review of the policy toward
2009
Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we want to make sure that our goals are clear and achievable, because I would respectfully suggest none of you nor us could say precisely what our goal is in Afghanistan. What is the goal? In Afghanistan, as I speak, our soldiers are making measurable progress on the overarching goal to disrupt, dismantle, and ultimately defeat al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Let me say it plainly, Mr. President. It is not our intention to govern or to nation build, but we are not leaving.
2011.
You don't want us to leave.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
We've decimated al-Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden. That was our purpose. But we are leaving in 2014, period. And in the process, we're going to be saving over the next 10 years another $800 billion. We've been in this war for over a decade. The primary objective is almost completed. Now all we're doing is putting the Kabul government in a position to be able to maintain their own security. It's their responsibility, not America's.
Today marked a turning point in Afghanistan as the U.S.-led coalition formally ended its combat role in that country. But although that mission has officially come to an end, the conflict in Afghanistan is far from over.
In 2014, NATO issued a declaration affirming that Afghan security forces would from that point on have full responsibility for this country's security by the end of that year. That was 7 years ago. So when will it be the right moment to leave? We were attacked. We went to war with clear goals. We achieved those objectives. Bin Laden is dead, and al-Qaeda is degraded in Iraq, in Afghanistan. And it's time to end the forever war.
One more quick clip, because you heard Biden there say we shouldn't be fearful of the term nation building, and you also heard him talk about setting up a government in Kabul. So one more quick clip from what Biden just said recently.
Let's start with why we were there, because on Monday, Biden offered this origin story.
We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11th, 2001, and Make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building.
That's why it's okay to be angry. Joe Biden just isn't being honest. He's not being consistent. It did turn into a mission of nation building. And people got upset with me because of my last show, but I said it's not just Biden, it's been all the presidents from 2001 that seem to have no idea how to deal with Afghanistan. America's combat mission ended in Afghanistan in 2014. You heard him say it. Now, I'm going to play another clip for you. If you're not angry enough yet, if you still think it's not okay to be angry with what's going on right now, listen to this clip, and I'll explain at the end of it why you should be really angry.
That translators risked their own lives working for us. And because they did that, they are permanent targets for insurgents. Here's what the translator you just saw, Sarosh, has been up to lately.
My relatives told me that, hey, Sarosh, be careful, the bad people looking for you. And please run away. I'm afraid of that day which the NATO leave Afghanistan, the United States forces leave Afghanistan. It means we are done. They're going to catch me. They're going to probably cut my head off, probably,
You're probably thinking right now, well, we need to move heaven and earth to get that man and his family and bring them to safety. And the fact that we are not is what this story is about. Because Sarosh, like a shocking number of interpreters, has applied for a visa but is stuck in bureaucratic limbo. And the crazy thing is, there is absolutely no good reason for that. Congress passed bills in 2008 and 2009 providing thousands of special immigrant visas for local nationals who worked with the US military. But despite huge demand, very few were issued.
That's a story from John Oliver's show on HBO about the translators who helped us in Afghanistan and Iraq and the difficulty of getting them to safety. Why should you be so angry about that? Because that show is from 2014. It's a show John Oliver did in 2014. I encourage everyone to go watch the show. Google Translators Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. It's a 16-minute clip, and you will be amazed, and you will be angered and frustrated at what you see. The difficulty that these people who work with the American military, putting their lives in danger, have had to get out of the country and get to safety since 2014. Not since 3 weeks ago or a month ago or 2 months ago, since 2014. So yes, I'm angry at Joe Biden. I'm angry at Donald Trump. I'm angry at Barack Obama because we need an explanation of how that could be possible. How did our combat mission end in 2014 and people who had helped us, who knew their lives were in danger, who we knew their lives were in danger, who we passed bills to get them to safety, are rushing to the airport to be evacuated up to this very day? Up to this very day. How is that possible? People ask me on Twitter, who's to blame? Who's to blame for this? Everyone. Everyone. Our leaders, our politicians, but we are too. You know which used to drive me crazy, what I used to hear when sending more troops into Afghanistan, or the occasional story about Afghanistan would make it to the news because people pretty much forgot that we were even in a war in Afghanistan. What used to drive me crazy is when these pundits, when these talking heads would just say so flippantly, well, America's war weary. The American people are war weary. The American people are war weary. What about the people in these countries? What about our men and women in the military that have been doing 5, 6, 7 tours of duty? The American people are war weary. You talking about the people sitting on their sofa watching reality TV shows? So yeah, we're all to blame for this mess because we didn't pay any attention. We didn't demand better from our leaders. We just go with whatever political party is in office at the time. Whatever they tell us, okay, that sounds right. That sounds good. I'm not going to criticize. I'm going to make excuses like I hear people on the left making right now. Oh, this is Donald Trump's fault. He set the date. He set the date. I've even heard the talking heads on some of these left-leaning radio shows saying it's the media's fault. I'll be doggone rootin' tootin'. No, you didn't. Just like Trump, just like the Republicans, on Joe Biden's first catastrophic blunder, you're going to blame the media? They sure are. That's what they're saying. If the coverage was better from the media, the word I heard them using a lot was nuance. The coverage needs to be more nuanced. It wouldn't look so bad for Biden if the coverage was more nuanced, if they gave it historical context. What's really going on in Afghanistan can't be covered in a tweet or in a story in the news. You want nuance, go read a book. What you're going to get from the media, what you're going to get from tweets is people's emotion. And I'm emotional because I hear Joe Biden say, we plan for every contingency except this one, I suppose. I hear Joe Biden say, we didn't know that this was going to happen. We didn't know this was going to happen this fast. Then I hear Joe Biden say, no, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. We knew a terrorist attack was likely to happen, but we had the Taliban providing security at the airport. Let me get this straight. We had the Taliban providing security at the airport where our soldiers were bravely defending and getting people on airplanes and out of the country to safety. There's a rumor that one of the suicide bombers was searched by the Taliban prior to setting off his bomb. That's a rumor. Who knows if it's true or not? But you're telling me the Taliban was in charge of searching people before they got near our troops? Listen to this clip. Maybe this is part of the problem.
Does the U.S. military consider the Taliban an enemy?
Where our focus right now, the thing we're working against right now is time and space, and we want to get as many people out of Kabul as we can in as little amount of time as we can. There are no hostile interactions right now between American forces and the Taliban, and we want to keep it that way.
That's Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby. Can't answer the question. A direct question from Fox News. Is the Taliban our enemy? Can't answer the question. He didn't answer the question. Doesn't that make you angry that the spokesperson for the United States of America, for the Pentagon, can't answer a direct question whether or not the Taliban is our enemy? What's he afraid of what the Taliban might do if he says, yeah, of course they're our enemy. We've been fighting them for the last 20 years. What do you think they are? It's an embarrassment, and it's an embarrassment because if you ask me my humble opinion, Joe Biden gets himself into trouble when he tries to look at things through the lens of politics. And I think that's what he did here. Now, understand something. People on the left, it may be time to at least consider the fact that Joe Biden may not be the guy that you think he is when it comes to refugees. Let's remember, back when you were upset that Joe Biden had gone back on a promise to go back up to the original 58,000, 68,000, I forget what the exact number was, refugee resettlement program that Donald Trump had taken down to 15,000. Joe Biden had promised, I'm going to put that number back up. We're going to take in those refugees. Then he became president, and Joe Biden said, you know what, let's leave that number at 15,000. People on the left were very upset about that. And it was said Joe Biden changed his mind because he didn't like the way it would look politically bringing in all those refugees. Then remember that under the Obama administration, when Joe Biden was vice president, the Obama administration was not all that particularly soft on immigration. That might surprise some people on the right, but I don't think it surprises people on the left to say that. The Obama administration, with Joe Biden as vice president, was pretty tough on illegal immigration. They deported quite a few people. They were not the welcoming, open arms, open border country that the right made them out to be. So should it be a surprise that Joe Biden didn't plan better, didn't make it a priority to get out the people who needed to get out of Afghanistan, that it was left to the last minute to come up with a plan on how to get these people out? Maybe Joe Biden felt politically he didn't want to go out of his way to get these people out. And now what do I hear from Joe Biden with the deadline of the 31st of August looming? Hey, listen, we never said we were going to get everyone out. That's what Joe Biden said. That's how he's answering reporters' questions now. We never said we were going to get everyone out, because he's coming to the realization that they're not going to get everyone out by the 31st. But apparently we can't stay, because somehow in just a matter of weeks, we've lost so much influence and power in that region, we can't direct the Taliban on anything. We can't tell them, no, we're going to need an extra couple of weeks to get our people out. They're telling us, you got to the 31st, be out by then or else. And what can we say? What can we do? What do you think? There are going to be some people in Afghanistan still willing to work with the Americans? Huh? You think that? You think there's going to be anyone there willing to put their lives at risk helping America? Do you think there's going to be anyone in any country like Afghanistan willing to put their lives at risk helping America? You asked the same question about Trump when he pulled the troops out of northern Iraq and Turkey came in and just started killing the Kurds, the people who had helped us in the fight against ISIS. Remember that? You talked about Trump like a dog then, didn't you? Didn't you? But not Biden? Come on. Of course you should be angry. Of course you should be upset with the way Joe Biden and his administration has handled this. Maybe I shouldn't do a show when I'm angry and frustrated. Maybe I'll regret some of the things I've said. I don't even know what I've said up to this point, because this wasn't a prepared show. This is just me talking at this point. But maybe I'll regret some things. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on some things. And that's fine. I don't care. I'd rather tell you what I think and be proven wrong and admit that I'm wrong than sit here and act like Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong or feel the need to defend Joe Biden in some sort of way by saying the media coverage hasn't been nuanced enough. I'd rather sit here and ask silly questions, because I'm no expert. I'm just a silly guy sitting in front of a microphone doing a podcast. But I would like someone to answer the question, why couldn't we establish a base in Afghanistan? Why couldn't we negotiate a deal with the Taliban? Go ahead. The country is yours, especially if we knew they were going to take it anyway. I'm hearing reports now. Yeah, they thought it was going to be 18 months. So again, 18 days, 18 months, who cares? If you knew the Taliban was going to take the country anyway, if you knew the government was not going to hold, if you knew the Afghan army was not ready and was never going to be ready, you negotiate a deal, you say, country's yours, but we're just going to establish a little base over here out in the desert. You won't even know we're here. But then they would shoot at the Americans and attack the Americans. Shoot back. Shoot back. But there's no water in the desert. There's no water in California right now. We can bring in water. The American military can do anything. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm asking the question. I don't like when people just say it matter-of-factly. We had to leave. We just had to leave. Why? And if we did have to leave, there's things I don't know. Okay, fine. We did have to leave. This way? It had to be done this way, Joe Biden? You're going to keep on continuing to say, I don't know how it could have been done without chaos. Just said it recently. If we had done it a month ago, if we had done it a month from now, there would have been chaos. I'm sorry, but I don't believe you. You're trying to cover your butt. Of course, things could have been done better than they were done. Of course, you could have started this the second you walked into the Oval Office, started putting together the plan, how we move the people out of Afghanistan that we need to move out of Afghanistan. Of course, you could have done that. Of course, you could have left the military in Afghanistan while you started evacuating people. Why did you move the military out first? That's a legitimate, easy question to ask. Why wouldn't you tell the military, okay, your mission that you're currently on is done and over. Here's your new mission. Give it a new name. It's to evacuate over the next 6 months, X amount of people, 50,000, how many ever people it is. That's your new mission. Evacuate these people safely. And when you're done, you put yourself on the last transport out of the country. The military would have appreciated that. They would appreciate a new mission like that, as opposed to, okay, pack up, get out of the country, leave everything behind for the next people. If nothing's angered you so far about this, does that anger you? Does watching the videos of the Taliban and probably at some point ISIS unpacking all the brand new weapons that are now in their hands that we gave to the Afghan army, watching all those weapons now being used against our soldiers, that doesn't make you angry? That couldn't have been handled better? Listen to this clip.
According to more than 2,000 pages of documents obtained by the Washington Post, military commanders, diplomats, and aid workers privately and in blunt terms describe an unclear mission, a failed strategy, and efforts to sway public opinion. Among the revelations, retired General Douglas Lute, the Afghan war czar under Presidents Bush and Obama, saying in 2015, "What are we trying to do here? We didn't have the foggiest notion of what we were undertaking."
Those interviews were collected by SIGAR, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, a government office tasked with producing honest reports about how things were really going there. One of which noted the US government's goals were often operationally impractical or conceptually incoherent. SIGAR's mandate was to promote efficiency and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. Here is the head of SIGAR identifying one expenditure in particular.
I think the worst case so far of just stupid waste has been the purchase of the helicopters and the airplanes for the Afghan air wing. It's clearly risking that those planes and those helicopters are just going to end up on the tarmac rusting. They can't even use the planes they currently have. Over 70% of the maintenance is being done by U.S. contractors, not by the Afghans. They don't have the pilots, they don't have the ground crews, they don't have the workers to
So why are we buying them?
That's a good question.
Does that make you angry? Is it okay to be angry about that? Yep. We bought them airplanes. We bought them helicopters that they can't fly or maintain. Defense contractors just cashed in. And before you say, oh, those doggone defense contractors, it happened over multiple administrations. Multiple administrations allowed it, both Democratic and Republican. So yeah, I'm angry. I'm frustrated. When I see the hashtag Biden disaster, Biden failure, Biden must resign, it's not fair. It's not totally fair to put it all on Joe Biden. But when I see the hashtag respect Biden, come on. Come on, people on the left. There is no excuse for this. And no one bats 1,000. People who know me may remember back before Joe Biden was elected president, I was sent a text message asking, what do I think a Biden presidency will look like? How do I think Joe Biden will do as president? And my response was very simple. There'll be some good things that happen, and there'll be some bad things that happen. Pretty much just like every presidency, including Donald Trump. Some good things happen, and some bad things happen. This is one of the bad things for Joe Biden. And to pretend like it's not, to try and make excuses for him, to act like we're not supposed to be angry over this, puts you at the same level of the people you criticized for 4 years under Donald Trump. And I'm going to bring it up again to finish up the show. Tone. It's about the tone. I talked about it in the last show. I don't know if people agreed with me then, but hopefully you agree with me now. It's all about the tone. And I know there are a lot of people out there who didn't like Donald Trump because of the way he spoke to people, because of his personality, because of the way he acted. Well, let me ask you, wouldn't you like just a little bit, just a little dose of that coming from Joe Biden right now? And I'm not just talking about in reference to the people who attacked our troops. I'm talking about in general. Wouldn't you like a little bit of that antagonism, a little bit of that shoot from the hip crazy? Of course you would. Don't say you wouldn't. Because when I was watching the press conference the other day and a reporter jumped up, maybe from Fox News, I don't know the guy, and he tried to get under Biden's skin by asking Biden if he accepted responsibility for what was going on in Afghanistan. And Biden said he did. Biden said he accepted the responsibility, and the reporter tried to press him, tried to get under his skin a little more, and Biden put his head in his hands, just put his head down. Now, wouldn't you have preferred Joe Biden to look at that reporter and go, you're fake news. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. He's fake news. Yeah, you would have liked that. You would have applauded Joe Biden for that. So don't act like I'm so far off base here when I suggest that Joe Biden get a little bit of Trump crazy in him to put America back in a position America should be in Afghanistan, giving the orders, not taking them. Follow me on Twitter at @comparison_show. At @comparison_show. Check out the website, www.thecomparisongroup.com. www.thecomparisongroup.com. I pray we won't have any more loss of life in Afghanistan. I really do. I apologize if I offended anyone with this show. I hope I only told you how I was feeling at this moment. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel differently. Maybe tomorrow you'll feel differently. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.